Today, I'm showing you 5 easy recipes when you have ground beef and you don't know what to cook. I'm going to start you off with a 1 skillet ground beef potato dinner. That's so easy, and if you love a good pasta bake, try this Millionaire spaghetti and elevate spaghetti night. And here I am going to show you the perfect, tender, flavorful meatloaf that's great the next day. And if you're looking for restaurant quality pasta fagioli, try this one. It is such a hearty soup, perfect for the cold weather. And for the last easy recipe, crock-pot chili, and instead of cornbread, I'm going to show you how to make a cheese potato pie that you'll want to make all year long. It's so good. And this combination is hearty and satisfying. Some of these are one-pot recipes, perfect for those lazy days when you're looking for an easy recipe for dinner. All of them are great, and all of them are perfect any night of the week. Here we go. Today I'm making a super easy ground beef and potato skillet recipe that you're going to keep in rotation all year long because it's so good and easy. Here we go. I am starting off with 1 pound of lean ground beef. I'm also going to be using around 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes. Here I have some bell peppers and onion that were in a frozen vegetable medley that I had in the freezer. The bag is empty, so I'm using the peppers and onions that kind of collected at the bottom. You could use fresh if that's what you have. I'm also using taco seasoning mix that I purchased from the grocery store. And now it's time to start cooking. So in a cast iron skillet, I'm going to add some cooking oil because I am working with lean ground beef. But first, I'm going to start by sauteing the peppers and onions and then the potatoes. For those of you that are new here, welcome to my channel, Simply Mama Cooks. Please check the description below for the ingredient list and the measurements. And for those of you that have been with me, have been subscribed, and watch my videos every time I post, I thank you. And guess what? February 14th on Valentine's Day was our 11th year anniversary. Look at us, going strong in a long-term relationship. And if you don't believe me, go to the About section on my YouTube channel. You'll see February 14th is when I started this channel. Okay, the potatoes are in, and I am going to sprinkle maybe like a 1/2 teaspoon of fine salt. And I'm just going to continue the saute for about 5 to 7 minutes. I want to saute the potatoes before I start to cook the ground beef because potatoes do take a while to cook, so that does help to keep the texture of the potatoes, and it gives them a head start. So here I've created a space, and I'm going to start to cook the ground beef on one side of the pan. This is a 1 skillet, 1 pan dinner, and it's very easy. So I'm just going to start breaking apart the ground beef, and you can season this however you like. I had a package of taco seasoning mix, but before I add that, I am going to add a little bit of granulated onion powder and granulated garlic powder. And even after this cooks, you'll always want to taste it for salt and seasoning and adjust to your preference. So here I'm going to add that taco seasoning mix, and it still has to cook through, but I'm going to work that in. If you do not have store-bought taco seasoning mix, just start with 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of fancy light chili powder, maybe a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, onion powder, and I like to add 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika into the mix, and that kind of gives you a good base for a taco seasoning. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to cook this. Once the ground beef is cooked through, you'll want to start adding the potatoes with the beef, mixing it around, and continue sauteing. Now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water right into the pan. And you can cover this with a lid after combining everything. What I'm going to use is a splatter screen and that I just covered with aluminum foil to act as a lid. So I'm going to cook this covered for about 12 to 15 minutes. Lower the heat once you start to hear it simmer, and let the potatoes cook through. In the meantime, I'm going to prep my toppings because I am making a ground beef and potato taco skillet bowl. And essentially, it's the ground beef and potatoes, and you top it however you like. It's such an easy and hearty dinner that comes together quick. So this has been cooking covered for about 12 minutes, and it smells amazing. It was so easy to put together, especially with ingredients that I always keep in my kitchen, pantry, and refrigerator, and even freezer. Just give everything a mix. At this point, you'll want to taste it for salt and seasoning, and like I always say, adjust to your preferences and tastes. Okay, so once the potato is tender, it's ready to serve. So if you are looking for an easy weeknight dinner using ground beef and potatoes, you got to try this. I'm going to show you an easy version for Millionaire spaghetti. This is going to be good. Okay, so for this Millionaire spaghetti that started trending, I'm going to start with a preheated pan with a little bit of cooking oil, crank up the heat, and I'm going to start to saute. This is one small onion. And this is just one bell pepper. I had like part of a green one and part of a red one. I'm gonna go with a pinch of salt and saute. You could also eventually add some fresh garlic. I'm just gonna opt for garlic powder today. I'm gonna let these saute for a little bit. Okay, so I'm using a pound of ground beef. Going to season with some granulated onion powder, garlic powder, go in with some more salt, and when I have a free hand, I will add some cracked black pepper. I'm going to break this apart and cook. Season your meat and your eventually pasta meat sauce the way you like. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of the dried Italian herb blend. That'll work. Okay, so fun fact. This Millionaire style spaghetti that's been trending and going viral, I've been making something very similar to this for years. I actually have 2 videos on my channel that you can check out. I will link below. And it kind of dives into like the cream sauce that I use. You can make it from scratch. Today I bought some from the store and Alfredo sauce, so that's what I'm going with. So anywho, back to the meat sauce. Okay, so I've got a 32-ounce jar of marinara sauce. Use the store-bought sauce of your choice. That's going in. I'll probably add a little bit of water and give it a swirl and add that to the pot here. So I'm going to give this a really good mix. Taste your sauce and adjust the salt seasoning to your preference. I know a lot of people like to add a little bit of sugar. I might do that. And I'm just going to let this simmer for 15 minutes. Essentially, you know, it's up to you how long you want it to simmer and cook, but I'm going for a quicker version of Millionaire spaghetti today. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to give this a taste, adjust to my preference, and I suggest you do the same. And then once it's simmered for a little bit, it's done. Okay, so the pasta water is ready for salt. I'm going to mix that up. So now I'm going to go in with a pound of spaghetti. And you're going to cook that to your desired doneness. Okay. So I'm going to get some pasta water. I think that's enough. Yeah, that'll work. This is almost done, so a couple of more minutes and I'm going to drain all the water out. Okay, so for the cream sauce or the Alfredo sauce, I purchased it from the store. And I'm going to mix, this is a 16-ounce container of Alfredo sauce and 8 ounces of fine shredded mozzarella cheese. So let's go. So I've drained this. I'm gonna add the Alfredo sauce, the entire container. Like I said, this is a, let me make sure I'm not lying. Yeah, 15-ounce container of Alfredo. But if you've got 16 ounces or a pound of this sauce, hey, that's fine. You can also add extra seasoning in here if you want. I'm not, because this sauce is really seasoned well. So I'm just gonna give this a mix. Actually going to add some of my pasta water, part of the cheese, mix it up. And these are the spaghetti pasta part of this. But I'm gonna add just some dry rub seasoning. This is like Montreal chicken seasoning. It has like dehydrated bell pepper and parsley and a little chicken flavor. That's probably weird to you, but I don't know. I think it'll be good. Like I said, season how you like. Okay, this is ready for my baking dish. Okay, so in my baking dish, I'm going to add a little bit of this meat sauce at the bottom. You don't have to. Now I'm going to go in with all of the pasta. I'm going to mix that up actually with the... Oops, there goes my oven. Oops. Well, that was kind of a plop that I wasn't expecting. Okay. I'm going to go over with the rest of the mozzarella cheese for this layer. I'm just making this really cheesy. I'm going on with my meat sauce. Spread that out on the top. Things look amazing already. Some of you might not even like this. Some of you probably think this is a horrible idea to mix these sauces and flavors together. I like it. So does my family. Okay, going in with just cheese on top. Like I said, use the cheeses of your choice. Use what you've got. At this point, I don't know if there's any rules to this viral dish. I've seen some people even use like cream cheese in their cream sauce with Alfredo. Okay, I like this. I want a preheated oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, uncovered, because I want things bubbly and a little bit of crisp on the top for the cheese. So it's like 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. Should work. Okay, going in. Okay, so this is done. I'm going to take this over to the stove. Ta-da! Is go over with some I have some freeze-dried parsley. Fresh is best. But there we go. And this is Millionaire spaghetti, and I'm gonna just dive right into it. It's super hot. You might want to let it sit for 10 minutes before serving. Okay, so I know there's like long spaghetti pasta in there, but this is kind of like a scoop and serve. So I'm probably gonna cut some spaghetti. And it sets up quite nicely if you let it set for a little bit, but oh, look at this. Just so good. Here we go. What is happening here? Let's see. Let's do it from this angle. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. Okay. Here we go. Is it messy? Yes, of course. Is it good? Absolutely. Well, it depends who you ask. Like I said, I've been making this type of pasta baked dish for years, and it never fails in my house. So good. Look at that. Amazing. So good. Let me show you one of my favorite ways to make meatloaf. It comes out so tender and flavorful. This is gonna be good. Okay, for the recipe, I am using 2 pounds of lean ground beef. This is an 18-15 meat to fat ratio. I prefer to use that ratio of meat. If you are using 80-20, it does render a lot more fat. You'll have to definitely drain that. Here, I'm gonna add 1 package of Lipton beefy onion soup mix. This is the dry mix. You could use the onion soup. I'm going for the beefy onion. Here I have a quarter of a bell pepper. I have a mix of red and green. Also some fresh parsley going in, like 2 tablespoons. I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I'm going to add like a teaspoon of paprika. Here I'm adding some cracked black pepper, and I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of ketchup. I'm also going to crush a sleeve of Ritz crackers. You could also use saltine crackers or toast some bread or breadcrumbs. It's really up to you. I kind of switch up between Ritz crackers and saltine crackers sometimes, but I'm opting for the Ritz crackers. And I've already made this meatloaf like 5 times over the last like 3 months. And this is what my family prefers these days. So once all the Ritz crackers are crushed up, it's going right into the bowl with everything else. And you could crush this up with your hand, use a rolling pin. Some people like to pulse it through a food processor. It all works. So I'm going to be using a 1/2 cup of whole milk. And to that, I'm going to add 2 large eggs. This is what's going to bind your meatloaf, and it does help to keep it moist and tender. So I'm just going to give this a really good mix. And now I'm just going to pour the milk egg mixture right into the bowl. And this is also going to help saturate the Ritz crackers. Okay, so clean hands. I'm going to mix all of this up. And this is another important step when making meatloaf. I am going to sort of combine everything together first, but you want to do this gently. And I'm going to start folding. I'm going to fold the meat and mixture like a book. This will ensure that you don't overmix and make the meatloaf tough. So right onto my baking sheet. You could also do this in an actual loaf pan. I don't think it fits. If you do half of this recipe, it would fit like in a bread loaf pan, but I'm going for a baking sheet. And I already washed my hands, so I'm going to use this wooden spoon to shape it into a loaf. So once it's shaped into a loaf, just like this, I'm going to show you the sauce or the topping I put on this. You definitely can just add your ketchup right on top, but this is one of my favorite things to do. My family loves this. It's a combination of 1 cup of ketchup. I'm just eyeballing this, by the way. And I'm also going to add A1 steak sauce right into the bowl. Maybe like a 1/4 cup of this. Again, I may have added a little more. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of chipotle peppers. These are all diced and kind of mashed up. So if you have whole chipotle peppers like in a can, just dice it up. And I'm adding a tablespoon right into the mix. I'm also going to add cracked black pepper and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This is actually dark brown sugar. Light brown works. And I'm going to combine this well. If you are making this combination of sauce, the ratios are up to you. Give it a taste. If you want it sweeter, if you want it less sweet, then maybe just start with 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. But it's so good. I prefer this over barbecue sauce, over ketchup. And sometimes I don't add sauce at all, but this is really good. So I'm going to pour this right on top of the meatloaf. And it pretty much just goes all on top. I may leave some on the side. My son likes to use some of this to dunk his meatloaf in, but you know, just pour it right on top and spread it around. And I am going to bake this uncovered in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. By the way, cook time always varies depending how cold this meat is. It could take a little longer. My meatloaf cooked for 1 hour and it is ready. Check this out. It smells amazing right now in my kitchen. So I have this setting on my countertop and I'm going to let this rest for about 20 minutes or so before slicing into it. But check this out. All this rendered fat, I'm going to just sop it up with this paper towel. I would drain it, but my luck, the meatloaf will slide off of the baking pan. So I'm just going to use paper towels and toss it into the trash. And just like that. And by the way, you notice it's not a lot of rendered fat because I use the 85-15 ratio meat. Okay, this is going to rest. I love to top it with some fresh parsley. Sometimes I even throw in some chives into the mix. And this is done. Like I said, resting definitely helps to keep it juicy and moist. So I'm going to let it rest for about 20 to 25 minutes. By the way, a great side to this meatloaf would be a baked potato. I recently did jacket potatoes, which is what I guess British people call baked potatoes, and they do make them differently. But what I did here is did a cross scoring on the tops of my potatoes. By the way, they were rinsed well. I added cooking oil on the exterior. That does help the skin crisp up when you roast it. And now what I'm going to do is just sprinkle on some sea salt on the exterior. Again, just a crispy potato skin, salted, so good. And I'm going to bake these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. Some of you might have ovens that run really hot, so 375 could possibly work. Essentially, you are baking them until the potato is cooked through and tender. These are done, and I bake them right onto the rack. That does help to give you crispy skin on the exterior all over instead of putting it on a baking pan. So once these are done, you're going to remove them and you can serve them immediately. And what I'm going to do, in the video that I made for the jacket potatoes, I topped it with chili, but if I'm just doing like a regular baked potato, you're going to open it up. You can fluff up some of the potato because it's so soft and tender when you roast it this way. And I like to add butter. That is essential for a delicious baked potato. And I'm just going to fluff up all of this fluffy, tender potato. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. And I'm also going to add one of my favorite cheeses. This is shredded smoked black pepper cheddar cheese. Top your potato however you choose. I'm also going to add a dollop of sour cream. This is actually Mexican sour cream. Either way, sour cream works. It's so good. And just give it a mix. If you want to add extra salt and pepper, maybe some chives, you have a delicious baked potato that's going to go right next to that delicious, my ultimate delicious meatloaf. It smells amazing in my kitchen. And I need to try a bite. I sliced into it and it's so tender. Today I felt like a one-pot soup, so I'm going to show you how I make my homemade version of pasta fagioli. This is not authentic or traditional, but it's good. In a 6-quart pot, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil and I'm going to saute half of a medium onion, 1 celery stick, and 1 medium carrot that I chopped. By the way, I'm doing this kind of backwards. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, but I'll show you what I mean. I meant to actually cook 5 slices of bacon that I chopped. So as I'm sauteing this, I realized, oh, that's right. I was supposed to cook bacon first. So if you are making this recipe, cook the bacon first. And in the rendered fat, you can saute the celery, onion, and carrot. Okay, so now I'm adding the bacon and I'm going to cook and render some of the fat. If you want to skip the bacon, then just add the olive oil and saute the aromatics with a pinch of salt. That also works. Okay, so like I stated earlier, this is not traditional or authentic, but this is just something that I love to make. Going in with 1 pound of lean ground beef. This is a 90-10 meat to fat ratio ground beef. If you are working with anything higher in fat, you might want to drain some of the fat. Okay, and I'm going to add 2 cloves of garlic that I chopped. Here I have a combination. It's 1 tablespoon of dried Italian herb blend, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, and a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And I'm going to add like a 1/2 teaspoon or so of salt. You can always add salt later to taste, so just maybe start with a 1/2 teaspoon. Now I'm going to break that apart and continue cooking and browning the meat. Here I'm going to add a half teaspoon of cracked black pepper. Give that a mix, and as you can see, everything has cooked through. It's nicely browned. There is flavor and fond at the bottom of the pan, so that is great. Now I'm going to add a 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. You could also use like maybe 4 to 5 fresh Roma tomatoes diced. That also works. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a mix, combine everything, and kind of cook the crushed tomatoes quickly. Now I'm going to add 4 cups of chicken broth. You could use veggie or chicken stock if you like. And I'm also going to add 1 or 2 extra cups of liquid. I have water, so that's what I'm going to add. In all, somewhere between 5 to 6 cups of broth or water works for this. Okay, so after giving that a mix, I'm going to add 2 15-ounce cans of drained beans. I'm working with white kidney bean and a small red bean going in. Here I'm going to add 1 dried bay leaf, and I'm just going to put that in, give that a mix. And what I'm going to do now is cover with a lid and let it simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes. For this recipe, I am using 6 ounces of ditalini pasta, and it's just this like short tubular pasta. Okay, so this has been simmering for about 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is just give that a mix, and it smells so good. By the way, if you can't find ditalini pasta, you could use like a small elbow macaroni. Okay, you'll want to season and salt to taste, so that's what I'm doing. And now I'm going to add the pasta. And you'll want to add the pasta with everything boiling or rapid simmer. So give that a mix, and I'm going to let it cook for another 10 minutes. So this is cooked for 10 minutes, and once the pasta is cooked, it's ready. Look at this. It is so easy to make and so good. And if you want it extra brothy, you could add more broth into the mix, or you can add less if you want it thicker. Okay, adding fresh parsley on top, and this is ready. This is dinner, and I'm going to show you how I serve the bowl. So I add a couple ladlefuls of everything into the bowl. Now let me show you how I garnish. So I like to add a little bit of olive oil. Here I'm adding cracked black pepper, some grated Parmesan cheese going on top. I'm also going to add some fresh parsley. I love to add crushed red pepper flakes, and this is dinner. It's so good. Serve it with a side salad or crusty bread, and you've got a delicious, hearty, easy dinner. It's so good and comforting. And be sure to comment down below some of your favorite soups to make during the fall soup season. Today I'm going to show you another delicious combo for comfort food: cheese pie and crock-pot chili. Each of these are delicious on their own, but together, it's amazing. Here we go. So I'm starting off with around 3 pounds of beef chuck roast, and I'm going to cut into small pieces like this. And I've separated some of the fat because I'm going to start by cooking that first. In a preheated pan, I'm going to add the fat trimmings and let that cook first a little bit to render some of the fat. By the way, if you hear piano in the background, that is my son practicing because I'm trying to get a head start with this crock-pot chili, and it's in the morning. Okay, I added oil to the pan and salt to the meat. So now I'm going to cook this in batches. You want to make sure you cook this through, or at least get really good browning on the exterior of the meat. That's really going to make this tender later. Okay, so just continue cooking. It kind of goes through stages. It turns gray, and you'll get some brown bits, but you really want to get great color, just like this. Browning your meat well also adds the best flavor to any type of stew that you're making when it comes to beef chuck roast, or any type of meat for that matter. Okay, so now I'm going to add a pound of lean ground beef, and I am going to add some salt. I'm also adding this garlic, salt, and pepper blend. And I'm just going to break that apart and continue cooking and browning. And you'll notice the ground beef kind of picks up the fond left over from the other stew meat. So this is going to go into my crock pot. By the way, I'm working with a 6-quart crock pot. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of Fancy Light chili powder. Here I'm going to add probably like 1 or 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. I'm also adding some of that salt, pepper, garlic blend into the mix and onion powder. I will put the ratios I used in the description below. Here I'm going to add some smoked paprika, probably like 2 or 3 teaspoons, and 1 dried bay leaf. I'm also going to add a 10.5 ounce can of French onion soup, because I have it, and 1 can of beef broth. I think this is like a 14 ounce can. Also, I make crockpot chili so many different ways. This is just what I'm doing today. I'm going to add 1 heaping tablespoon of chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. If you want it spicier, add an extra tablespoon. So just give all of that a good mix. And again, if you want to add some Worcestershire sauce, brown sugar, some apple cider vinegar, those are all flavor profiles in chili. I'm going to add a 15 ounce can of ranch-style beans. I drained off some of the liquid. Now give that a mix. And what I'm going to do is slow cook this and set everything to high. And you'll want to cook this for about 4.5 to 5 hours or until everything is tender. Okay. Cheese pie or cheese and potato pie. I've seen the term used interchangeably with this specific dish, and this is a British or English baked dish. And you start with your potatoes. You'll want to peel, clean, and cut them up. And this is essentially like a baked cheesy mashed potato dish. Okay, so I'm going to put all of my potatoes in a pot of clean water, turn this on. I'm going to add some of that salt, pepper, garlic blend into the water. You could just add salt to season or flavor the water. Here, I'm going to add some chicken bouillon powder, like a teaspoon. And what I'm going to do is bring that up to a boil and cook until fork tender. I'm going to add the lid and offset it. I'm going to check on the chili now. So in the last hour of cook time, you'll want to add a cornstarch slurry. I'm going to add like 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch and then add 2 tablespoons of cold water. You'll want to mix that up, and that creates the cornstarch slurry that's going to tighten up the chili. Before you add this to the chili, or at least what I'm doing today, you'll notice that a lot of fat has rendered and it's on the top. So I'm going to skim that off the surface before adding the cornstarch slurry. You'll want to give that a really good mix. Also, I'm going to remove the bay leaf. I think it's done its job. Everything smells very aromatic. Okay, and set that aside. So what I'm going to do is cover with a lid and let it continue cooking for 1 more hour, or until it's tender and cooked through. Okay, so in a pan, I'm going to add some ghee. You could add a little cooking oil or butter. I'll melt that down. And I am going to saute 1 small onion that I thinly sliced. You could really elevate the cheese potato pie by caramelizing your onions, but I'm just going to give them a really good saute. Here I'm adding a pinch of salt, and I'm just going to cook them through. I have seen several recipe videos where they boil the onions. I don't know if that's traditional or authentic, but a good sauteed onion would go well with this, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, so the potatoes should be done. And like I said, you want to make sure they're fork tender. Okay, yes, this is perfect. I love a good, soft, tender, creamy potato. So I'm going to drain out all of the water. And these potatoes, you really don't have to add heavy cream or milk to them. I am adding butter, so like 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to give them a good mash. And you'll want to season salt and pepper to taste. And honestly, these mashed potatoes, they're so versatile. You can add herbs into the mix, maybe a little thyme or rosemary. I think it's really up to you. You can do a lot of things with these, but I'm just going to keep it simple today and just mash these with salt and pepper. And like I said before, you'll want to salt and season to taste. So I'm just going to add that salt, give it a mix. Now for the sauteed onions, and you'll want to give that a good mix. And these are done. I'm going to set these aside until I'm ready to use them. For the potato cheese pie, I'm going to be using around 8 to 10 ounces of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. I'm using white and yellow sharp cheddar. So here I have a buttered 8 by 8 square baking dish, and I'm going to start building the layers. You'll want to start with half of the potato and onion mixture and just create a layer on the bottom. Now I'm going to add half of my shredded cheese. I've also seen people add cheese into the potatoes. You totally could do that, but I just did it in layers. So the second layer after the cheese is the potatoes, cheese again, and now what I'm going to do is top it with thinly sliced Roma tomato. This was just one tomato that I thinly sliced to cover the surface area of the top of this. And you'll want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to bake this uncovered until everything is cheesy, bubbly, and kind of crispy on the edges and toasty on top. It's going to take like 25 to 30 minutes. So this has been baking for about 30 minutes, and it smells and looks amazing. So the hardest part is just letting it set for about 15 minutes before slicing into it or cutting into it. So if you can do that, then you're gold. So I'm going to let this set, and my chili should be about done, and I'll show you a plate. This is what we're having for dinner. So I've seen several recipes, and the couple that I've seen did not have any egg or egg yolks into the potatoes. But I feel like if you do add an egg yolk, if you cool the potatoes down first, it'll help to set it up into square pieces. But quite honestly, I'm not complaining because this is going to be good. So now it's time to top it with this delicious, tender, savory chili. This slow cooker chili, I'm going to make this all winter long. It really is my favorite. So you just add it right on top. And garnishes are up to you. If you want sour cream, jalapenos, more cheese, look, make it the way you like it. I'm going with a little bit of chopped fresh chives. Even green onion would be great with this. And this is it. This is the dinner. So I hope you give all these recipes a try. I hope you like them, and thanks for watching.